really big believer in therapy. I mean, of course I am. I'm a therapist, but it's that I think it's a uniquely potent tool for radical change, not for just like, behavioral changes or addressing the issue of the day, but that if you want to, free yourself of what traps you and keeps you stuck and keeps you repeating things and keeps you in pain and suffering, I think therapy is the way to go. To sit down with someone, to spend time with someone who can get to know you, in a relational, psychodynamic way, who can get to know you and help you unravel things from the core so that they're not just helping you on that day to figure out that problem, but helping you to shift something inside of you that will give you better access to your truths. There are 3 things that I think make for a really good therapy experience. And the first thing, of course, is the client themselves. But what I mean when I say that is that the client, anyone can be a good client, but the client has to be ready for therapy. They're not just going somewhere to get a little advice or a little support. They're going to actually be the ones doing the work. They're going to be the ones looking at themselves and thinking about themselves and discovering things about themselves, some of which may not be that comfortable. That the goal of an individual therapy session isn't that the client come in and feel better at the end of the session. Each session sometimes are really hard. Sometimes you're in a session where you leave with more heaviness than you came with, but that's because you're trying to figure out really some core stuff that have you stuck in life. And so when a client seeks out psychotherapy, relational psychotherapy, they need to have some courage, some courageousness in them that is ready to do this work and to ride a wave of change. Because that's when people reach out for therapy, is when they're ready to really make some significant changes in their life. And therapy is really the relationship that will support you while you make those radical changes. So the second component to a good therapy is the therapist themselves. And one of the issues in finding a good therapist is just the fact that they have a degree and a license really isn't enough to know if they're going to be a good therapist. That there are a lot of therapists out there, and I'm a bit of a therapy snob, and in my opinion they are not necessarily that great, just because they're out there doing their work. That you really need to find someone who, besides being educated and trained, is also talented, is gifted, is uniquely interested in you and learning about you, and doesn't just have some techniques under their belt, but really know how to establish a long-term relationship with you where they can get to know you and help you unravel your particular story. So then the third issue, which is that once you have a motivated and courageous client, a talented and educated therapist, you need a good match. And this is where full living comes in. That, I've worked in this field for a long time. I've made a lot of referrals for a lot of clients. And part of why I created Full Living is that I felt like unless you know somebody who knows a lot of therapists in the area, it's hard to get a good referral for therapy, because even if your friend went to a great therapist, it doesn't mean that's a good therapist for you. That if you want a good therapist, you need somebody who knows lots of good therapists in the area and then can meet with you, talk with you, and get enough of a sense of you that they can make a good match, not just in terms of the issues you want to work on or the presenting problem, as we say, but really who is a good match for your personality, your style of thinking, your style of working, your sense of humor, whatever it is. And the way Full Living works is that I actually do an individual intake with you, a free initial consult with you myself, which brings my skills to bear, and I'm able to get a sense of who you are and what you want and ask you what you want. And based on that, I help select a therapist for you. I have a lot of great seasoned therapists that I work with, and I match you with one of them.
A good fit is something that's important in a therapeutic relationship. It helps to speed up the process of engagement.
Okay, I think treatment matching and client matching is extremely important because it helps develop the trust between the therapist and the client.
So finding the right therapist is very important in terms of match and feeling comfortable. I tend to specialize in working with members of the LGBT community, and I've had the great fortune of working with people from all different parts of the world with many different backgrounds. I see my job as a therapist as creating a safe space for us to talk and for me to really be able to listen carefully so that I can understand you and without judgment. And then together we decide what feels like is working in your life and what you might want to start working to change. And that's what we do together.
Our relationships with our therapists are one of the most intimate relationships we have, and there has to be something about it that just feels right. And that's a combination of skill, expertise, training. It's also a way that we're able to exist together in an unconscious and unspoken space where there is an opportunity to give voice to what is really true.
It would be nice if finding a therapist who has a natural rapport with you, who feels like they really get you, was not just a matter of luck.
Having a match between you and your psychotherapist is really, really important for the process to work. I've been in practice for over 30 years, and my experience confirms that, and more importantly, the research does. That if there's a rapport, a connection between you and your therapist, that really helps you in terms of sharing deep and sensitive parts of yourself. You've got to like the person, you've got to be connected to the person. In my own psychotherapy years ago, my father died when I was a boy, when I was 5.5, and as you can imagine, it was pretty painful. But I found this wonderful older man who was very connected and who I deeply liked. And he was a kind of pseudo-father figure for me who really helped me. That wouldn't have happened without the rapport, without the connection.
I think you know when you find yourself talking extemporaneously and there's no barrier. So it's almost like the absence of feeling that tells you it's the right match. Because an uncomfortable feeling is going to be with you, whereas I think comfort is like loose clothing. You don't feel it, but it just feels good.
If you're getting ready to use your energy to do some important work in your life, I want to help you connect with the right person to do that with.